With Alabama already looking better than last year, and that alone is scary itself, and Texas seemingly on the rise, they got a new quarterback who's supposed to be great, their running back is coming back who was outstanding last year. Can Texas actually pull off the upset? I know a lot of SEC fans and college football fans in general can't wait to see what happens when Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban play. I'm excited for that game, don't get me wrong, but there's just something about the Texas and Alabama game, it intrigues me a little bit more. So the past couple of days, I've been doing a lot of research, and I think you're going to want to stick around and hear what I got to say. There is much, and let me repeat this, there is much more to this game than, oh, Alabama's really great, and Texas, they're supposed to be good. We're going to take a deep and detailed look at that, and we also get two other topics to talk about. One of those being, ironically enough, Quinn Ewers himself and what he's got going on, and also the Big 12. Early this morning, the Big 12 officially released the new teams that's going to be joining their league. Real quick, before we get into this video, we literally just hit 109,000 subscribers. I don't want to be corny or nothing, I just want you guys to know I greatly appreciate all the new subs, and thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me, and I think a lot of you don't understand how much subscribing actually helps the channel. I appreciate it so much. Once again, thank you to all the new subs and even the older subs that helped us get to 190K. And now, without further ado, let's get into it. Where shall we start off first? How about this? Let's just get the boring crap out of the way. Well, I think it's boring, but maybe some of you find it interesting. It's just the Big 12 news, and as we all know, whenever Oklahoma and Texas, they officially joined the SEC, that is now the mega conference. If you didn't think the SEC was the greatest before, once they joined, if you say they're not the greatest, I just think you're stupid. But anyways, let me pay them their respect and give them some flowers. They have announced that in 2023, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF are going to join. Clap it up for the Big 12. I guess that's okay. You lose Oklahoma, Texas, two of the best programs, two of the best teams in your conference, and you replace them with Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. Do I need to add context to that or add anything? That's a terrible trade. I've never heard anybody in my life say, I can't wait to watch Cincinnati play, Houston play, or UCF. But you know what I have heard? People say, I can't wait to watch Texas and Oklahoma. I did want to share that and bring it up with you guys because it is trending and a lot of people are talking about it. Moving on to our next topic before we get into the Texas and Alabama debate, we got Mr. Quinn Ewers. We all know Quinn Ewers, former #1 prospect in the country. He had a perfect scout grade on 24/7 Sports of 1,000. Recently though, and I believe it was yesterday, one of his teammates leaked out his car and he's got an Aston Martin. Now the teammate that posted it on Instagram goes by the name of Xavier Worthy, and he's pretty solid. I'm going to show you the picture right here. He said Cud driving an Aston Martin, and it appears to look like it's red. Maybe you see what I'm talking about, but I think that was the camera quality or something, or the sunlight. I think it's burnt orange. That's what it's supposed to be. I've heard people say it's the color burnt orange, and that would make more sense because that's Texas. Not too many people are a fan of this, and everybody says the same thing about Ewers. Like this says, kind of ridiculous with 0 games played yet. If you watched yesterday's video, you know it was only 2 or 3 days ago when CJ Stroud, he copped a Bentley. Or no. My bad, he switched out the Bentley for a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. And now for Texas, your star running back, he's driving a Lamborghini, which is probably $250,000 to $300,000. And your star quarterback, Quinn Ewers, is driving an Aston Martin, and that's around probably $250,000 or $300,000 as well. That is why when it came out he was going to transfer from Ohio State, I knew since day one he's going to Texas, because that's where the money's at. I want you to try to put yourself in some of these kids' shoes. Imagine being a high schooler and somebody's offering you a chance to play at your dream school, and you're also going to get a Lamborghini. Or not a Lamborghini, you can get an Aston Martin, or you can get any car you want. Some of you are probably in the same boat as me. We all know what a Lamborghini is, but what in the heck is an Aston Martin? I've heard of Aston Martins before, and I'm going to tell you right now, all I know about them is that they're a cool car and they're very expensive. That's what college football has come to though. And now you got these Texas recruiters going into 16-year-old houses and saying, hey kid, you want to drive an Aston Martin? Come to Texas. I'm just trying to put myself in these shoes. Imagine when we were 16 or 17 years old and somebody offered us that. We'd take that in a heartbeat. It's just crazy what college football has come to, and I always got to say this when I speak on it. I love it. It's exciting, and I think it's entertaining. Now, here's the biggest dilemma, and I see this in every comment section, whether it's Instagram or Twitter. Everybody says this is going to be the downfall of college football. Maybe it will be. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. Like always, time will tell. Before we move on, I do want to bring this up because some of you guys were saying this to me, and I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I've been saying for the longest, we got to have rules and regulation and put a cap on all these deals. Because right now, where it stands in college football, If somebody wants to pay Quinn Ewers or Caleb Williams or anybody $1 billion, they can do so. And I've been saying they need to put a cap on these deals, because if they don't, it's going to cause chaos and it's just going to be a mess. Where the crossroads come is this right here. In the NFL, yes, there's a salary cap, but all these Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfields and Tom Brady's, they can do brand deals on the side for up to $1 billion. So yes, although you can only pay Patrick Mahomes an X amount of money, he can still do a brand deal at Nike for $2-3 billion if he wants to, and if Nike wants to pay him that. So what I was saying in college, we need to put a cap on it. Now that I thought about it, I don't even know if that's going to work or how it's going to work, because technically these schools aren't paying them, but we all know it's going through the schools. The sponsorships are labeled as sponsorships, but we all know it's somehow connected, but we can't prove it. That's why it's a big jumbled up mess, because for example, the Jordan Addison kid, he goes to USC and they're giving him a mansion, they gave him a car and $3 million. USC technically is saying, oh, we didn't give him that was a sponsorship. But come on though, we're not dumb. We all know he wouldn't have got that $3 million in the mansion if he would have stayed at Pittsburgh. Technically, it's a quote unquote brand deal, but like I said, we're not dumb. That's where I've been coming from, and although yes, I see where some of you are coming from, saying you can't put a cap on it because it's brand deals, I still think we need some kind of regulation. The problem with that though, and the NCAA is facing it right now, they don't know how to fix it. The dangerous part about the NIL is once you officially allow these players to do what they're doing, there's no looking back. Even if it is chaos right now, you can't go back and say, okay, the players can no longer receive money or the name, image, and likeness. Is it a total and a complete disaster? Not quite yet, but it's heading there. Alright, last but not least, let's talk about this big time matchup and the game I'm looking forward to the most. That is no other than Big Bad Texas versus Alabama. I'm not going over the obvious stuff. I refuse to do that. We're going to take a serious look at things. My biggest fear for Texas isn't stopping Bryce Young, it's not stopping Alabama's new star wide receivers, and it's not stopping Will Anderson. The one major concern I have, and I think they're going to get exploited, is their rush defense. If you watched Texas last year, you would know the two things that stood out the most was their terrible secondary and their tackling. That's what jumped off the board at you, and a casual fan, you can notice that. But when you take a look at the numbers and you pay attention to the small stuff, it was actually their front seven that was pitiful. Whoa, hold on. I already know some Texas fans, you're probably sitting there saying, yo, Matt, what do you mean our front seven was awful? And just take a listen to this. Out of 130 qualifying teams, Texas rush defense ranked 114th. 114th out of 130. Do I need to say anything about that? Their opponents averaged over 5 yards per carry. Theoretically speaking, that means they could run the ball every single play and get a first down and never have to punt. And when it was all said and done for the year, they allowed over an average of 200 rushing yards a game. Not 100, not 150, over 200 yards a game on the ground. You gotta have a good secondary and pass defense in 2022, but it all starts up front. Same thing for the offense. You can have a great quarterback, great running back, great wide receivers, but if you can't block, it amounts for nothing. And as bad as the secondary was last year, and as bad as their tackling was, the front seven, defensive linemen, they weren't too much better. And you could actually make a legit case and argument and say they were worse. Their total defense ranked at 100th overall, and the rushing was below that at 114. When I say that concerns me, I don't even know if that does it justice, because Alabama is notoriously known for, if they can run the ball every single play, they will. I'm not too sure how many of you watched Alabama play Cincinnati, but it was either the first or second drive, I can't remember. I think it was the first one where they ran the ball every play and scored a touchdown. Alabama does have a Heisman winning quarterback in Bryce Young. Great wide receivers, but if Nick Saban knows you can't stop him running the ball, he doesn't feel sorry for you. And what makes it all worse is these highlights I'm showing you right now. That is Alabama's new running back, who is an absolute stud. That is the one thing that jumps off the board to me, and you better believe Saban's going to test that run game. Another thing that concerns me with this game is Quinn Ewers, if he is the starter, and more than likely he's going to be, that would be his second start. He's only 19 years old, and I don't believe in, oh, he's only a freshman. No, none of that matters. If you can ball, you can ball. Winners win, losers lose, ballers ball. People who don't ball, I guess they just don't ball. If you're good, you're good. If you're labeled as the chosen one, I expect you to perform right away, just like LeBron James did in the NBA. And Quinn Ewers is one of the few players in the history of high school recruiting to have a perfect scout grade of 1,000. I have a rule of thumb. I don't criticize freshman quarterbacks too much unless they're a 5-star recruit and they're supposed to be really great. And Mr. Quinn Ewers, he falls under that line, so no excuses. Here's the thing that worries me. It's not Quinn Ewers, it's their offensive line. We made a video talking about it yesterday, and I'm sure these Texas fans, you know that Alabama has the best defensive player in the country that goes by the name of Will Anderson. I don't care who you match up with him, because you're not going to block Anderson. You can just only hope to contain him. Bad news and unfortunate news for Texas, Alabama has another edge rusher who's looking like a carbon copy paste of Will Anderson on the other side, and he goes by the name of Dallas Turner. Texas isn't going to be able to just triple team or double team Will Anderson. They got to worry about everyone else on that defensive line. For Texas on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be similar to the defense. Can the guys up front do their job? If you can give Ewers some time, if you can give your running back some lanes to run through, you got a chance. But if you can't block Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, and just block it all, no chance whatsoever. Alabama will blow them out of the water. Another key aspect to this game and what concerns me the most about Texas is these Alabama players, they know they can beat Texas. They don't even question it. I'm not too sure if it's the same for Texas players. Alabama's to a standard now where they walk in everywhere and they're like, okay, we should win this game. But Texas, I don't know if they believe that just yet because that culture hasn't hit that point. For a while now, they're used to losing games. They went 5-7 last year. Losing is normal. That sounds bad to say, but as a former athlete, I understand it. I've played for teams that went undefeated, and I've also played for teams that were flat out awful. And whenever you play on a team that wins a lot, you get used to it. It's a part of the culture. You expect to win. But however, and I'm sure some of you can relate, if you play on a bad football team or a bad basketball team and you lose 3 or 4 games in a row, that feeling, it starts to feel normal as well. And you start to get it engraved in your mind and you start to have self-doubt and self-belief. I'm just not sold on the fact that these Texas players, they full out believe in themselves just quite yet. I've believed this ever since Nick Saban has stepped foot onto Alabama. They beat 95% of their opponents before they even step onto the field. People automatically see they're playing Alabama and they're like, oh crap, they're just going to beat the crap out of us. Let's just get this game over with. Pay attention to that. Watch their attitudes when they're running onto the field. Can they truly believe before the game starts they can win? There's one player on Texas who I believe is the X factor. I don't think Ewers is the X factor because I think he'll have a good performance. I don't think he'll have a great performance. I think he'll play good. The guy that's going to matter the most is a receiver that not too many people know about, and he goes by the name of Xavier Worthy. Of course, if you're a Texas fan, you probably know who he is, but people outside Texas don't know his name quite yet. Last year, he nearly had 1,000 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns, and that was for a bad Texas team, and now he has an outstanding quarterback. Alabama did get 5-star Eli Ricks from LSU, and the secondary looks like they're going to be improving, but it was a concern at times last year. Alabama's front seven is going to be one of the best in the country, but I do think the secondary is a weakness. It all goes back to the battle up front. If you can give Ewers time to pass and he can hit Xavier Worthy from time to time, they could go off. If you're going to beat Alabama, it's going to have to be through the air. You're not going to do it on the ground. I'm going to say it again. Xavier Worthy, remember the name. If Texas somehow wants to have a chance of winning this game or even competing whatsoever, he's going to have to go off. I'm talking about 8 to 10 catches for 175 yards. I don't think that's impossible. I think that's doable because he may be one of the best receivers on the field. I also believe Ewers is going to have to throw up some 50-50 balls, and that's what's going to matter. Can Worthy catch some 50-50 balls or not? Only an imbecile and a flat-out idiot and moron, whatever you want to call him, would bet against Nick Saban. I would say that's about as close to a cardinal sin you'll ever see. There's 4 people I don't bet against in sports: Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, LeBron James, and Nick Saban. Your list may change, but that is just 4 guys that you can't count out no matter the circumstance. And with Texas under a current rebuild, there's no shot I'd pick them to win this game. Look at the cold hard facts. They went 5-7 last year, and the defense isn't going to improve that much this year. On the flip side for Alabama, they overachieved to get to the championship last year, and they got even better in the offseason. I don't think anybody that's not a Texas fan would predict them to win this game. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, can they win this game? Could they win it? I think everybody's so brainwashed by this. They're saying it's going to come down to how Ewers plays, and I strongly disagree. It's going to come down to the front 7 on their defense. Can they stop Alabama's run game, and can they get pressure on Bryce Young? Look at what Auburn did against Bryce Young when they put pressure on him. They held him to 3 points. Same thing for Georgia in the championship. It's a proven fact. If you get to the quarterback and put pressure on him, he doesn't have time to throw, and when he doesn't have time to throw, he makes bad decisions. That's not Bryce Young. That's any quarterback under duress. It's going to come down to that. My early prediction would be Alabama 45, Texas 20. I think it's going to be competitive in that first and second quarter, but by that third and fourth quarter, Alabama's going to wear them down. 45-20, I like that. Don't get concerned by the score because I think it will be competitive at the start. I am very curious. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Who would you predict to win? But, ciao, what up, peace.